Hello, everybody. I hope you are doing well and you have taken the course in your stride. We have ended the teaching properly. Perhaps for distance education, we have a session or so to go. Congratulations to many of you already. My name is Dr. Nancy Miles Bafo-Jimfi. You would have engaged me in different quarters. Some of you may have seen me in person, but it's good that you hear from me now at this time. I say again, congratulations to many of you. I'm speaking with regard to critical thinking and practical reasoning as a coordinator and examiner on behalf of the team of our very able lecturers and teaching assistants. So I'll use the opportunity to say a big thank you to the whole team, Dr. Kwesi, Dr. Ani, Dr. Morgan, Mr. Okansi, Dr. Hussein, and myself, Dr. Nancy Miles JP. We have come to another successful end of the semester. And to my able TAs for main campus and tutors for DE, we say thank you very much for all the effort. Now, this is a quick, I don't know if I should say feedback of a kind, and then some prompts as you do your final lap of the 50% in the course. We want you to do well, sincerely, okay? But you have to earn every grade you have in the course. So far, so good. I think some of you, not a big number, but yet still, a few of you took off rather slowly, either because it is an online taught course or because of several other reasons. This is a freshest course. This is the first semester. People settle in quite slowly. We had a relatively not too smooth takeoff because of what you know already, our industrial action, and then subsequently other issues. But here we are, we had a 10-week period together. So if you took the course in your stride, you followed simple basic instructions, then you wouldn't be so stressed currently. But even if you feel a little stressed, you still have the last 50% lap to go. I always tell students that lecturers are conscious, or examiners are conscious of what? Grading. We don't only do examining or teaching, but we also grade. So in the university's mind, at least University of Ghana's grading scale, all the way from 0 to 44 is an F. And I jokingly tell students, you get a 44%, someone gets a 0%, the university says you stand on the same, at the same level. That is the university's interpretation of our scaling, our grading scale. Then 80 to 100 is an A. So someone gets an 80, another gets a 99. The university says you stand at the same level. Okay, that should give you an inkling that grading is not necessarily the same as what examining. We examine you, and then after we receive feedbacks from you, your responses, your whatever, your answers, and you earn yourself marks, then the examiner of a course grades you. So the lecturer, who most of the time it's your examiner, would also do that. So you have to be more concerned about you're doing well in the exam, and let your examiners or examiner grade you. Okay, that's the first step. Of course, guided by the university grading scale. That is just to give some of you some assurance that we are minded, that you are also very concerned about how you are faring. But the course is a discipline. It's a discipline. It disciples you. We want students in critical thinking and practical reasoning to have a certain posturing, because the course aims at something. That is why everyone entering into the university is supposed to do it. It's a requirement. We don't care what specific department you are in, or what your life endeavors are. We want you to be critical thinkers and practical reasoning students. The skills, the techniques, the content we have delivered are meant to be applied. So simple obedience to rules is very important. Applying yourselves to details in an instruction is very important. And the course didn't just give you that content, but it took you through it. You were made to succumb to rules. You were made to obey, apply yourself to the rules. I mean, some students won't do that. You won't do that. You are given a notice, you are directed to a specific email. Send your queries if you have any to this email. Students will not do that. They'll send WhatsApp messages. They'll send it to some other person. They'll say, and they bother everyone. There's a reason for notices that are sent to you. You want to, as a critical thinker, you want to apply yourself to that. Okay. 2, you are giving instruction. And I'm going to take you through some of your IA questions. There were quite a big pool for the specific unit, a very big pool giving your numbers. So we won't be able to do each specific one, but I can give you a range of questions that fall within that type so that it will be a good example for you as you prepare for your final exam, which will not likely per your overview, your course outline. You know that it will toe the line of the interim assessment. So you want to make sure you know how to answer short answer questions, specifically and directly. Okay, as I go on, if there are any further clarifications. That's the main purpose for this session, because I have received queries, feedbacks from some students. Doc, can you take us through the answer? It's a very big pool. My answer normally is go to your discussions on the recorded sessions that you had, and all the answers you seek for your interim assessment questions will be there. They will be there. They are not hidden at all. But I will just walk you through some few of them for you to see how the discipline called critical thinking helps you, how it would have helped you if you are just obeying simple instruction. The majority of you would have benefited immensely. Submit your discussion question. There's a question on discussion for some of the groups. Okay, submit it to the discussion tool. Some will send it to chat room. Some will send it to the main call site, for example. Even that wasn't too annoying sometimes, because you just trace it from there. If the student will just admit that, yeah, I mistakenly sent it to the main call site and not to my group site. Some too will not meet deadlines. Some will just wake up and say, my guy left me yesterday, so I wasn't too in a good mood. Are you able to open the assessment for me to do again? No, that's not a discipline. It means you are, quote unquote, not disciplined. You see that? We want you to apply those principles. So you do not get to have your own time of coming to do that. There are implications to that. Okay. All right, so let us quickly walk through. I pulled out some of the questions, especially the short answer type questions, to help you see how some failed and how some totally ignored. And I don't want to pick specific students' examples. Those some are very confident that they should have gotten 30 over 30. So when you take them to some of them like this, then they open their mouth and say, I don't believe I did that. Yes, you did. So let's see. On the screen now, you see a question. So let's start. This will be from unit 6, I think. Yeah. So construct an argument that is valid according to the pattern of modus tollens, and which has the following universal statement as its main premise. It's a straightforward question. You have been given a main premise. You are asked to build an argument from it, which is valid by modus tollens, not your own choice. And this is the main premise you have been given from which you should develop modus tollens. So if this is all planets orbit the sun, you can choose one planet. You can just use a variable, any variable of your choice to save yourself the trouble. So all planets orbit the sun. X does not orbit the sun. Therefore, X is not a planet. Finito. You're done. This shouldn't take 5 seconds. Maybe if you have typing issues, 30 seconds, you should be done. Right? That's all. Question 2 says, create a valid deduction whose premises and conclusions are all conditional statements. Take note, a valid deduction. You studied only 4. For the 4, there is only one valid deductive argument, which will have premises that and conclusions that are all what? Conditional statements. So the statement, the person is just saying, create a hypothetical syllogism. That's all, but it is not being explicit because we want to know if you know. So it is about 3 levels of what? Questioning. You are questioning you about creating, recall, your ability to connect. And look at what I said. Using the variables, academics, intelligent, and lectures. We gave you variables to use. You can't say, therefore, that you know that it is a hypothetical syllogism you are looking for. So you say, all mangoes are fruit, all fruits are edible, therefore all mangoes are edible. That's a hypothetical syllogism, but you will be wrong, totally wrong, zero. You won't score even your quota, because the rule said using the variables academics, intelligent, and lectures in no specific order. So you can say, for example, all academics are intelligent, and all intelligent people are lecturers. Therefore, all academics are lecturers. That would be valid hypothetical syllogism. Why hypothetical syllogism? Because that is the only valid deduction we have studied, which has both premises and conclusion being conditional. Okay? And then you also applied yourself to the three variables. There are samples of such questions that were in that big pool. It was a relatively big pool per unit, very big, because you have quite a number of students. So big pool for unit 6, big pool for unit 7, but around the same frame. Look at question 3. Is the following argument valid? Explain your answer. Either Bentum or Yao gave his food to the beggar. I have confirmed that Bentum gave his food to the beggar. So it follows that Yao did not give his food to the beggar. This argument is trying to do disjunctive syllogism. But we know the correct pattern for disjunctive syllogism. Disjunctive syllogism says A or B, not A, then you can conclude B. A or B, not B, then you can conclude A. So a negation of one of the alternatives in the premises. Now, either Bentum or Yao gave his food to the beggar. I have confirmed that Bentum gave his food to the beggar. That is not a negation of one of the premises, it's rather an affirmation, if you like, of one. Now, if Bentum gave his food to the beggar, it doesn't prevent Yao from also giving. Both could have given. Remember, those in my group, I gave an example. I save at Barclays or I save at Stanchart. Then the next premise says, I save at Barclays. Do I have grounds to conclude, therefore, that I do not save at Stanchart? No, not necessarily. I could save at both places. I'll give you fufu or I'll give you banku. That is if you visit me. I'll give you fufu or banku. So I gave you fufu. Do you then conclude, therefore, that I didn't give you banku necessarily? I could have given you both. So the reasoning will be valid if you said A or B, not A, then you can conclude B. Or not B, then you can conclude A. But not A or B. A, therefore, you are concluding not B. That is not valid. This is what has happened in question 3. For which reason? Your assessment, I said explain your answer. Is it valid or it's not valid? Explain your answer, because the one of the alternatives has rather been affirmed in the premises. That is how I've seen it. You say it in your own words, you pass. All right, question 4. Kofi appears before God. This is also like that one, so watch. Kofi appears before God and he's asked to choose between heaven and hell, the place he likes. He chooses heaven. So it means one of the alternatives is affirmed. Then we ask you the question, can we logically infer from his action that he dislikes hell? Why or why not? The answer is no. He could like both. What is the logic? I've explained it in the previous. It still applies here. A or B. A negation of one is what will lead to a necessary conclusion of the other, not an affirmation of one leading to a negation of the other. Don't repeat that if you did. Some did brilliantly well, 19/20 for the objectives. The short answer says perfect score. Some two are in between the shida, and others to the remnant of Israel to are there. So not to worry. Everything is still possible because we don't just examine you, we grade as well. And grading moves people. You see, you move and put them together at a certain place. I'm speaking figuratively. So we don't necessarily have to use your raw score. Look at the numbers we are dealing with and all the variations and approaches to studies. Some are doing analytic studies, some are doing descriptive, some are doing performing studies. So the approach is different. That is why you want to always do a marginal, incorporation for everyone. That's not a problem. Okay, but he that has a little push takes them higher up there. But if you are down there flat, I said 0 to 44 is an F. In this course, even 49 is a receipt. Because even an E is a receipt. Okay, those who have never applied themselves to the rules of the university, the scaling, how you are graded, and what have you. So I'm saying this, and I want you to see me. And you should go to every group, main or campus or D, for this particular semester, 2022 first semester, critical thinking and practical reasoning. Okay. Question 5 then said, construct a sound argument from the premise human beings are mammals. You see what is happening? You must know sound. You must know that soundness implies validity plus true premises. That's the second thing you should know. Before, you must be able to use the raw material given to develop it. So it's about 3 steps of what? Assessment. I'm assessing you at 3 levels. Now, human beings are mammals. What sound argument can you create from it? Something that is valid, and you are not restricted to any specific type of validity. So you choose yours. You have 4 to choose from. Any comfortable one. It must be sound. That means you would want to be careful what you are saying in your premises. They must be actually throughout the observation. Okay, so human beings are mammals. I could say mammals drink water. Therefore, human beings drink water. I can conclude that way. There will be hypothetical syllogism valid, and all the premises will be true. You can do modus ponens. It's not likely you can do disjunctive syllogism because of the starting point. It's a universal. Disjunctive syllogism has no universal limit. Question 6. Construct your own example of any syllogistic argument apart from disjunctive syllogism and hypothetical syllogism. See, apart from that, using the variables A, B, and X, people must be particular about details, right? That one is important to us. So you don't go signing documents for the nation without reading or reading it scantily. You are not particular. So you endorse and sign and sanction things before you go and think through it. No, that's danger. You have to be particular about it. We said apart from disjunctive syllogism, Mr. Lawyer, before you append your signature or you tell your client to sign that word, look at where the comma is and the if and the but before that. It's important before you run down a whole generation of people because you were not circumspect with details. Okay, so here, the only options you have, giving the frame within which, if you were doing element of formal logic, philosophy, deductive logic, you would have alternatives outside of hypothetical syllogism and disjunctive syllogism. But in your course, you are giving only 4 valid patterns to learn. Less trouble for you. So if you chose you picked out the 2, what will be left will be 2 modus ponens and modus tollens. And then we give you variables to use, A, B, and X. You don't go and say, Kofi, all men are mortal. Kofi is a man, therefore he's mortal. Look at the variables you are. As soon as we start doing anything outside of those variables, it's a question mark. Then we move on and grade. You see. Okay. So here, if I did modus ponens, I'll say all A's are B's. X is an A. Therefore, X is a B. It's valid. Someone can do the tollens version. If you don't know what tollens is, this is not a lecture. I'm just walking you through some of the questions, especially the short answers. Now, see, there's a little time left. I'll go to some of the multiple choice and how folks, some even send an email, and the tone of the email is very offensive, but I'm very patient because they say, I don't know how you people graded. How can you tell me that I got, say, 8/20? When I'm very confident about my answer. Oh, thank God I am very good. That is how people are so confident. The drunkard is so confident that he's okay. When he's in the dream, he says he's lying on his sofa bed. We show you there are multiple choice. The answers are there. We are not immune to errors, but the answers are there. We'll go to them for you to see. All right, question 7. Create a strong inductive argument and explain why you label it as a strong inductive argument means the reasoning must be likely to be true, granted that the premises were true. There should be a higher degree of likely. It's inductive, so it doesn't have to be certain. You don't have to say, oh, this or that. Kofi is this, therefore. No, not that pattern. But you could say most women like money. My mother is a woman, therefore she likes money. She is strong. We didn't even say a cogent one. Cogency is tantamount to, or is akin to soundness, valid argument. Okay. So we are not even saying the premises should be true. We are saying the reasoning should be a strong one. That's granted that the premises were true. You will have a higher degree of likely probability of what the conclusion being true. So we are not looking for deductive argument. Question 7 said what? Inductive argument. If you got that question or anything around that, they will look alike. So this will be a general pattern for everyone. Okay. Question 8. What is the hidden premise of the argument? No mother is male. Therefore, Kofi is not a mother. This is an end timing. And the question 8 has an I and an I part. And then an argument, a valid deduction with one of the premises suppressed, hidden. This is applying it. You were expecting to ask what is an end term. Then you say, no, that is not that is not what the university exam is about. It's an application of it. Okay. So here, if I said no mother is male, if you open that out to show that it's a conditional. Remember, no mother is male is a conditional statement hidden that is captured as what a universal negation. But it is a conditional. If you open it out, it will read if X is a mother, then S is not a male. That is what that is. No mother is male. If X is a mother, then X is not a male. Now, that clearly shows you antecedent and your consequent. Antecedent is what X is a mother. Consequent is what S is not a male. So you can tell. Then the conclusion says, how do we know this is the conclusion? Therefore, Kofi is not a mother. What has happened? The antecedent has been negated in the conclusion. That tells us that we are trying to do tolerance. So then we have to negate this one, the original consequent we have been given. Okay. So if X is a mother, then X is not a male. What do we do next? X is a male, therefore, there's a Kofi there. So Kofi is a male, therefore Kofi is not a mother. So the hidden premise is what Kofi is a male. That is how you find that. And the I said, what valid pattern did you use to deduce the hidden premise? Modus tollens. Question 9. Explain why the argument most politicians are rich. My neighbor is a politician, so my neighbor is rich. It's inductive. It is inductive because granted that those two premises, most politicians are rich, my neighbor is a politician, are even true. If we granted that those two premises are true at all, we are not obliged necessarily to accept what the conclusion that so is rich. It is possible that my neighbor is part of the few who are not captured in the statement most. You write it around that. Assess the following argument. Whenever the clouds gather, it rains. Whenever there is thunder and lightning, it rains. Therefore, whenever the clouds gather, there is thunder and lightning. Look at that. Whenever the clouds gather, it rains. I'm asking you to assess it. Assess means mark, assessment, judge it. Whenever the clouds gather, it rains. If clouds gather, then it rains. If antecedent, then consequent. Look at the next premise. Whenever there is thunder and lightning, it rains. If I was doing a correct hypothetical syllogism, which is what this person is trying to do, but he does it wrongly. It's a false hypothetical syllogism, therefore not valid. Okay. Assess it. So you tell us it's invalid, or you can say it's a false hypothesis. If you just say invalid, you may get 1 or 1 and 1.5. Assessment means tell us what is wrong with it. So if I'm assessing you, I'm looking at your strength or weakness. Okay. This is trying to do hypothetical syllogism, but it is done wrongly. Go and revise that. It will come again in 6, 7, 9, and 10. They are your exam units. Final exam, 50 solid marks, which you can just pass the exam with a 50 over 50, and it gives you a pass in the course. Whenever the clouds gather, it rains. If I'm doing hypothetical syllogism, the next person should say, when it rains, something else happens. So that now that I have a common factor, I can conclude whenever the clouds gather. So. You see that? But this person says, whenever the clouds gather, it rains. Leaves the rains, then comes from that premise. Whenever there is thunder and lightning, it rains. Therefore, he's concluding that whenever the clouds gather, there is thunder and lightning. That is not valid. It's a false hypothetical syllogism. Okay. Question 11. I think that if we get to 13, we can end for unit 6. These are the way the questions were set. And this is how you examine. construct a deductive argument that is valid by hypothetical syllogism using the variables man, human beings, and mammal. Is this an example? Yes. No, straightforward. All men are human beings. All human beings are mammals. Therefore, men are mammals. If you use your own variables, you will score 0 for it. If you go and do modus ponens instead of hypothetical syllogism, you will be wrong. You won't earn any mark. But it's only over 2. It's not an essay. Question 12. Demonstrate with an example why it is wrong to distinguish deduction from induction by claiming that one moves from particular premises to general conclusions. This is explicit in your test. We engaged it extensively. You cannot make the distinction between a deductive argument and an inductive argument by saying that, oh, one moves from general premises to particular conclusion, whilst one moves from particular premises to general conclusion. That is a false dichotomy. We said that. You can't say that to distinguish a woman from a man. Look at their hair. Women have long hair and men have short hair. That's a wrong demarcation because you will have men who keep their hair long and you have women who keep their hair short. So how then do you clearly distinguish the two? This is the question. The book tells you that. Your recordings tell you that. The lecture recordings tell you that. Interactive sessions, so you say. So now we are asking you to demonstrate that that dichotomy is a false one. So show an opposite, something that negates, like I've just showed you that some men would have long hair. So here, if I say, for example, Kofi is taller than Yam, anyhow, is taller than men, then it has to follow that Kofi is taller than men. But, and that is deductively valid. It follows necessarily. A is taller than B, and B is taller than C. Then A has to be taller than C, necessarily. Yet, none of the statements is general. They are all particular statements. Kofi is taller than, relational. Kofi is taller than, Yam is taller than. They are all particular statements. So if you had told me that deductive argument move from general to particular, then I've just given you an instance of a deduction, a valid one at that, which didn't move from any general to particular. It didn't even have any general statement. Now for the other one, if I said most men like bullying, my father is a man. Okay, sorry. My father is a man. Therefore, he likes bullying. I said most men like bullying. My father is a man. Therefore, my father likes bullying. This will be moving from general to particular. Remember, most men like bullying. It's a statistical generalization. Unit 7. Even unit 6 as well. You see. So it is still moving from general to particular, but it is not a deduction. It's an induction. So I am just showing you, I gave you 2, I asked for just one example, an example. If you do that, show that you know that that dichotomy is a false. Question 13, a deduction is considered topic neutral. Explain this with the help of an example. Topic neutral means it doesn't lend itself to what content analysis. We are not looking at the actuality of it, whether it is actually true or actually false. We are neutral to the topic and the discussion. Don't look at the subject matter. When you are doing deduction, look at only the pattern, the form. So my funny example, all chichis are chachas. This thing is a chichi. It has to follow that it is a chacha. We don't know what chichi and chacha are. Whether there is anything that actually exists called chichi or chacha is not even an issue. Because we are following just a pattern. If it were true that all chichis are chachas, whatever they are, and it were also true that this thing we are holding is a chichi, then it has to follow deductively modus ponens valid that this thing is also a chacha. It's topic neutral. So you explain with an example and you get your. It doesn't have to take too much time. This one doesn't have to take a minute or 2. You had more than 5 minutes per short answer. More than 5 minutes. We give you 5 short answer questions and 20 multiple choice questions in an hour. Right, if that helps, then I will quickly move to another slide that has some other content that you may find useful as a way of helping, because you will see stuff like that again around, let's say, okay. What was I doing quickly? Yeah, so I share the second slide. Let me see. I wish I could say any questions. That can be facet. Right. I share This also, yeah. Okay. On your screen, you see questions like, in contrast with inductive argument, we evaluate deductive argument by studying what? What do we study? We study what? In inductive argument, we don't study the form. So if we say in contrast, it means opposite to inductive argument. When we are doing deductive argument, what do we study? Study what? The pattern. Now look at this one. A type of argument whose conclusion is certain if the premises were true is called what? Deduction. It's a type of argument that leads to certainty granted that its premises were true. Deduction. Assess the following argument for validity and soundness. Fruits are edible. My school bag is a fruit, so my school bag must be edible. Fruits are edible. My school bag is a fruit, so my school bag must be edible. This is valid, but it is not sound. I'm sure you see why now. That's all we are looking for. Politicians are corrupt. Defensive people are likewise corrupt. So politicians are defensive. This is an example of a what? Politicians are corrupt. Defensive people are likewise corrupt. So politicians are defensive. It's a false hypothetical syllogism. I hope you can see it now. Gone through some. All the following are syllogisms except, and we'll give you the options to choose from and so on. So for all this, I mean, they are straightforward. What is the consequence of the universal negation? No humans fly. If I say no humans fly, if human, then does not fly. So if X is a human, then X does not fly. What's the consequence? X does not fly. That's the consequence. Antecedent. X is human. All these are straightforward. The syllogism has two premises and a single conclusion. It's a straightforward. Affirming the antecedent is another way of describing modus ponens. Modus ponens is best described by any one of the following except that you choose from them. Okay, I think we have enough here too. Let's find another slide. Then maybe I can do some top up of your multiple choice. Those who are on my name, please, we want to see how it fared. It will help us. Blah, blah, blah. Look at your content, because human beings set questions. Questions don't set people. That is a huge statement I've made. People are looking for Pascal. When they ask me, I tell them, look, critical thinking, you don't know the stuff. The people engaging you are not okay. They are able to create questions, construct new ones. I took quite a number of them for my colleague, just tweaked it here and there. My colleague predecessor, coordinator, and examiner them, and just tweaked it here and there. So if you were looking for past questions, you won't find them that the way you are looking. The question one for this proof, I said explain the predictive power. And you know how I did the proofs? It's a very big pool. Yeah, the question is randomized. So if the instruction to the system says pick 2 questions each from, let's say, unit 6 for every student, it will pick 2. So if you are waiting for your friend to finish, especially those who work offsite, DE students, for example, okay, you just go do your work, because you may not get the same. Maybe you get construct hypothetical syllogism, giving a man this, and your friend might get introduce the hidden interval and tell us the rule applied. They are all from unit 6. They are all testing understanding of the logical forms and patterns, but they are not the same. Okay, exactly the same. They are within the range. Explain the predictive power of scientific statements. So this is unit 7 that I took these questions from. Okay. The predictive power of a scientific statement, and show which type of scientific statement has more value. Okay, it's a 2-in-1 question. Predictive power of a scientific statement is the ability of the statement to tell you about the world. I mean, that's a straightforward thing. Okay. Show which type of scientific statement has more value. The generalization has more value than the other. Better still, a law-like generalization would have more scientific value than a statistical one. And the statistical one would also be more valuable than the verifiable one. The one that is empty of content is pseudoscientific. Unit 7 will come again. So the answer is just predictive power of a statement is its ability to inform you about the world, what to expect. Okay. But it's a prediction, the predictive power. It's a power of prediction which could fail. We learned that in Unit 5. All right. So you say that then you say not likely. Briefly explain why confirmation is not true. The fact that you have so much evidence that corroborates a certain generalization does not mean you have established it with certainty. It could still be false if you are dealing with an empirical generalization. You see, so you are building based on enumerative induction. You have particular instances. My funny example: Yaya is a woman, she cheated me. Aju is also a woman, she cheated. Mansa is a woman, she cheated. Yesterday to Zainab, another woman, she has cheated. So you have several instances. You are counting, enumerative. Therefore, you conclude. As for women, it be so they women are cheat. Now you have some particular instances based on which you are drawing your generalization. Women are cheat is a law-like generalization. You may have confirmed it with the more evidence you have that supports this, you find it hypothetical state. The higher the degree of likelihood, it means you are increasing the probability, the chances. But you haven't proven it because we can still have find one woman who will not be a cheat. If you could find potentially encounter a counterfactual, then your confirmation is never a proof. Why? Look at the conclusion you draw. It's a big set, infinite generalization. Okay? So when you are confirmed, you haven't proven. That is what it means. Why is an argument based on sampling described as inductive? Because if you sample out, you take a subset, and then based on what you find about the subset, you generalize about the whole. What you find to be true about the sample may not necessarily represent the whole. So it may be true of the sample and not necessarily true of the whole. So you are reasoning inductively. It might not be certain. That's why argument based on sampling are never certain. Remember comfortable lead? It was based on research work done and projections made, which could fail, and they did. Madam President, referring to Hillary, because of the trend, it turns out that wasn't true. Okay? There's so much. So you want to be careful when you sample out and you draw conclusions. You will be induced. Conclusions drawn are induced. But for empirical scientists, they view that uncertainty is a virtue. I've explained that when I did confirmation. The fact that we are not 100% sure of our findings is actually valuable to the empirical scientist. That is what inspires further research. If you're already certain about what you think you know about the empirical world, why do you continue searching for anything? Why are we still investigating COVID and its vaccines? Because we are not certain about what we think we know now. It could be that we believe the likelihood of, but it could be false. It is for that reason that science is inspired to keep searching and searching and searching. So there is no shame about not being 100% sure when you tell the client before you that, well, I'm not sure about this. It looks like the size of the ovarian cyst I see there. From research available to us now, doesn't it look like you can likely give birth with such a condition? But we are still studying. You are not certain. It's okay. You don't speak with some level of certainty as if you are good. So being uncertain is actually the reason why science thrives. We keep searching till we get how many planets do we have? How many do we have? How many shall we have? Was the geocentric view not a falsehood? Supposedly, or until we thought it was truth until the heliocentric view. Can define it. Now it is the we know that it is the sun that is in the earth of the world. It's the sun that is in the middle of the universe. That is what we subscribe to now. Could it be false in the future? It wasn't so in the past, for thousands of years, to hundreds. All right. So the fact that we are not certain is a virtue. You need to grasp that and then work with it. And when you are making scientific projections, speak that way. There is nothing shameful about it. It is science, okay, not dogma. Then we move on to question 5. Universal scientific statement raise problems of certainty for empirical scientists. Explain why this is so, using an example of a universal statement. If I say all metals expand when heated, that is not certain. All the reason why I say all metals expand when heated is because I've tested 10 copper particular instances of tin, copper, what's the other one? Bronze, brass, all the metals we know, and they all expanded when we heated them. That is the basis on which I conclude that all metals expand when we heat. But this universal statement, all metals expand when we heat, could be false. It has already been false. All planets orbit the sun. That's a universal scientific statement we are making, which is not certain because it could turn out to be false. It has been falsified. Or whenever prices of goods and services are increased, quantity demanded falls. Well, you don't buy a teaspoon of fuel for your car, do you? So the point is, they are only hypothetical statements made that way to inspire research. So if we make them very prone to falsification, and that will answer some questions that if we make our findings as empirical scientists, our findings very prone to falsification, that's when we universalize them. They can easily be made false. They help to search for that which can make it false. If you don't get any counterfactual, that is something that can make your theories false, then you have good reason to believe in it because the thing is very, very prone to being false, and yet it hasn't been falsified. And it strengthens the degree of confidence we have in it. But it is never a certainty. Okay, so universal statements have that role, they play that role. That's why they are valued more than it is statistical generalization and more than even verifiable. Investor statement reach problems of certainty. We have done that. The more evidence I have that corroborates the hypothesis of an inductive induction, the more certain I am that I have proven it. Look at the language. Briefly assess this statement in the context of our discussions in Unit 7, just so that you could quickly focus there. You cannot say that you have so much evidence that corroborates, supports a hypothesis, so you have proven it with certainty. You can't say that. I've already explained that. So this one, when I say briefly assess it, this is not, there's a problem with speaking this way. You cannot prove, you cannot claim to have proven based on corroborative evidence. 2 out of 10 academics are detail inclined. Lecturers are academics, so we have good reason to believe that lecturers are detail inclined. Is the given discourse an argument or not? If argument, which type is it? If not an argument, then which type of discourse? Look at the question. People just invalid. They say, "Would you want to permit me to speak some treatment?" And you went as it in the alumni. Look at the nature of the question. So people just wishy-washy, they're just going through. Look, don't do that with anything in this world, not with your friendship, not with your church life, not with your academia, relationship. You can't be wishy-washy and take people seriously. The question says, is the given discourse an argument or not? If argument, which type? If not an argument, which type of discourse is it? It's not a straightforward thing that you are invalid. They say it's an argument or not. You have to have an answer for that. If you say it's an argument, which type of argument is it? So this one is an argument. It's induced. You know how to tell. It's an inductive argument. That's 2 in 1. Some people didn't write anything. Yeah. So yes, 8. Why are analogies, causal argument, cumulative inductions, and argument based on sampling not topic neutral? Why are they not topic neutral? They are inductive argument. All these ones we have mentioned, analogies, causal argument, and motive induction. So analogies, we didn't do the subject matter of it, but in the recorded lecture, those are for Unit 7, which I prepared myself for the whole set of students in your dossier there. I touched on it, I told you analogies, sampling, causal reason, motive inductions are all types of what? Inductive argument, just like modus ponens, tollens, hypothetical, and disjunctive are types of deductive argument. Okay, I touched on it there. So if they are inductive argument, then they are not topic neutral. It's deductive argument that is neutral to the topic, that doesn't consider the subject matter. This one does. Question 9. Construct 2 testable statements, which are both verifiable but have different degrees of empirical content. This one is not easy. I'm playing words to know if you have engaged your Unit 7. Testable just means scientific statement. Just means what is it? Falsifiable statement. So a statement that has the potential to be either true or false. not a pseudoscientific statement, though. Any scientific statement at all, but I qualified it. Construct two of such, which are what? Verifiable. It means they must be statements with finite reference class, the two of them put. Must be statements that have what? Finite reference. If you engage that lecture, you see that I did one, the Earth orbits the sun. Then the other example, I said, all the planets orbit the sun. These are two particular statements. They are verifiable. But I said, but they have different degrees of empirical content. The first one said, the Earth, one. The second one says, all the planets, more than one. So then I tell you, clearly distinguish, look at the question, clearly distinguish the one with higher empirical content. You have to write the two and say, all the planets, the statement that is all the planets has what? The higher empirical content. You are that. Someone can say, Kofi is sitting under the tree. That's the first one. Then the second premise, the boys are jumping. We didn't restrict you to any specific example. We just want to make sure you have two verifiable statements, but one has more empirical content than the other. So when you finish this one, you don't tell me which one has the empirical content. You lose the second mark because I don't decide that for you. You should tell me. It's part of what we are assessing. So you tell us that two is, or some people just wrote the first one, the second one, then the next to the second one, they wrote what? Higher empirical content. Then we did it for the two. Question. And I'll end with this one for the unit 7 too. All the questions you see will be around that. Tweet here and there, but the same set. From our discussion of unit 7, explain why falsifiability is a virtue in empirical science. I've explained that. If a statement is falsifiable, then it makes sense. If it can be false, falsifiable, able to be false, falsifiable, able to be falsifiable, then you now have reason to check and see whether it is actually true or actually false, because the thing can be false. It's not certain. Certainty is a virtue, not certain. So you now want to check to see if it's actually true or actually false. But if the statement comes already presented as necessarily true, I think we have a few here, then there's no need to check anything. Then there's no rationale in searching the world for anything. So falsifiability is a virtue. Why are hypothetical statements described as confirmable and not verifiable in inductive induction? When you are doing inductive induction, your hypothetical statements are confirmable. You are never able to directly prove or directly test all the particular reference, the members in that reference class. The hypothetical statement has an infinite reference class, infinite reference class. So you can't directly verify it or test it. What do? Confirm it. I say explain using an example. So you have to use an example to make that point. An example of, say, a confirmable statement that we describe as confirmable or hypothetical. It can be universal or statistical. That doesn't, either way, they are both confirmable. So any one of them works. You get your mark. That's it. So compare the enumerative induction with a statistical hypothesis as its conclusion with another, with a law-like hypothesis as its conclusion. So where you reason from your enumerated evidences and you conclude with a statistical hypothesis versus the one where you start evidence and you conclude with your. I did this in the video, a recorded video for this unit, for every group and campus. It's in your dossier, the same document. Just like my other colleagues did for the other unit. Then we created a proof so that you have a fair, relatively fair, reference point in addition to your constant, the textbook. Then interactive sessions are only to enrich you and then directly. So even if a link is not working, all the links for all the groups were there. They've always been the 10 weeks. Some people send messages after the IA. But please, I have never been able to attend. I say, hey, then you shouldn't write the exam. You can't be walking through the university and then after an interim assessment, which was intentionally shifted backward a little further down so we can have everyone in first. Right after that, you have now realized that you were never in the interactive session and you're coming to tell me, huh? All right, so do what you have to do. Make sure that you feel that I'm speaking to just that one person. Like I joked on it. Like my father in heaven, I leave the 99 good and talk to that one person as if the whole class is like that. No. Generality of the class did very well, and we are still getting the short answer. But some have, I think some just woke up and realized, hey, why did I take chances like this? And now they are all over the place and begging and appealing to their emotions and appealing to routine. I understand that in turn. But fairness doesn't mean inhumaneness. We still have the human face, but we want you to earn your goods. And so you will do fine. You will do fine. Just put in an effort. Let's finish quickly. So when I say compare the two, if you reason from premises, inductive, enumerative induction, and you conclude with a universal generalization, which is also called a law-like generalization, chances are that your statement, your reasoning is likely to be false, in terms of degree, than if you reason from your premises to what? A statistical generalization. If I have all these instances of Aju, Zainab, Mansa cheating me, therefore I conclude that therefore most women are cheating. If I said therefore most women are cheating, compared to from the same evidence, if I said therefore all women are cheating, which one is easier to be false? The one that from you, your instances, you are concluding for all women. That one is easier to be false. So we say, oh, it's true that all these people have done that, but you can't therefore say that therefore all women. See, that is easier to be false, to be made false. It's false if I'm speaking a language that you can grasp. And then I twist and shift it to the technicality. Okay? That is easier to falsify than if I move from those same premises and I connect most women. Most women are like that. See that one, you have reason to accept it. Most doesn't mean no. It has evidence. What a number. But if from those evidence you conclude all women, say my mother, how many have you seen Virgin Mary? She's not a chief. And that alone can nullify the one who is concluded. So the question says compare the two and see and explain why the scientist will prefer the one with a law-like hypothesis as its conclusion. He will prefer the one that is easier to falsify. Why? Because that will bring scientific progress. If it's easier to falsify, and I still hold that theory, and for a long time, I haven't found just one thing that can make it false, then it increases my confidence, degree of likelihood in it, because it is the easiest to make false, and yet I haven't found a counterfactual. But if I find a counterfactual too, then I will now know something for certain. See the scientist playing I don't know if I should call that the devil advocate, killing two birds with one stone. If it is falsified, oh glory. Now we know with certainty that as one, not all men are cheat. As one, not all women are cheat. Not knowing, not all women are cheat. We will now find something that we can have confidence in with certainty. If we found a counterfactual, which negates our findings. But if we don't find it true, then it rather increases our confidence in that claim. So either way, the scientist wins. That's why we prefer the one that is easier to falsify, universal or law-like generalization. We don't want a very long video, but I want to distress people a little for them to see, oh, this is the reason. Oh, I could have done this. That's all. Okay. We cannot describe a particular statement as confirmable. Explain why. If a statement is particular, it means it has a finite reference class. So if it has a finite reference class, then it can be directly tested. And a statement can be directly tested, which is verifiable. We don't confirm that. Pseudoscientific statements are scientifically useless. Yes, they don't contribute to anything. They are necessarily true, tautologous. So it doesn't add to science. The scientist doesn't like statements like that. That's dogma. Okay, protected statement that will never be false, no matter what happens. That's not science. To give an example of it and explain why it is useless in this regard, I'll explain why. An example will be tomorrow it will rain or it will not rain. You know my example. If you never saw it, I said that if you ask me as a meteorologist, you want to plan your wedding, you're scheduling it for tomorrow. Quick one, so you can travel out. But because of the weather now, you are not sure. So you ask your metro brother, friend, Doc, do you think tomorrow it will rain? I don't know. Do you think I can have my wedding tomorrow? I'm not sure about the weather. What do you think about it? Oh, then she said, well, tomorrow, either it will rain or it will not rain. But that one, you know it. You know that tomorrow, either it will rain or tomorrow. So she didn't give information. What she had said is such that if tomorrow it rains, what she said is true. If tomorrow doesn't rain, what she said is still true. It is not informative. Science informs empirical content. Remember, predictive power and expectation. So if I told you, and I said that also in the video for you on Unit 7, the prophet says on the 31st of December that whatever, give me some of the examples. In January, Ghana is going to have the female president, for example. That is a scientific statement. It's testable. You will be amazed. Yes, all you have to do is wait. January will come. When January comes and the people vote, we will know whether the person is male or female to test. So we can directly test. January, Ghana being a president, we will have swearing a female president. Amen. Okay. That is a prophetic declaration. You think, yes, it's a scientific statement. The way it is there is informing you something that can be either true or false by verification. So we wait and see. You see that. But if I say tomorrow it will rain or tomorrow, you ask the doctor, will my wife be better a female child or a male child? They say, oh, your wife's child will be male or not male. So look at the nature of it. A statement that has strict necessity. And this one is a disjunction with one of its side. The same statement, a disjunction of, let me say it in a very accessible language so we don't sound all logic. We are not doing philosophy, element of formal logic or deductive logic. So let's speak an accessible language. The same statement or that statement's negation creates a tautology like that. She is my friend or she is not my friend. The or, the disjunction, behaves like a seesaw. This one. So if one side goes down, the other side automatically shoots up. And if this side goes down, this side shoots up. So one of the alternatives will always be at the top. That's why if you put A or the negation of A, that is necessarily true. If A comes, if A is true, not A will be false. And if A is false, not A will be true immediately. So they alternate. That's why if you put the two together with an or, you create a tautology. Okay. And statements like that, pretending to be empirical in nature. Yet, when you look closely at it, the logic of it gives you a necessity. It's necessarily true already. We call them pseudo-scientific statements and we throw them out. When we are doing empirical science, we don't add any information. Distinguish a statistical generalization from a law-like hypothesis we know already. One makes no exception to the set law-like universal. While statistical is also a generalization, but it exempts some members from the set. So most Ghanaians like pineapple. It's a statistical generalization. All Ghanaians like pineapple, or Ghanaians like pineapple. Drunkards are humanizers. Claims like that. Politicians like money. Lecturers are corrupt. Stuff like that. Universal in nature. Can be either universal affirmative or universal negative. Construct any type of general statement, rewrite the same as a verifiable. You can do that. So general statements, then you take away the generalization, make it verifiable. Construct an inductive argument that you describe as cogent. First inductive, then make sure the premises are all true. That will make it cogent. Like if you were doing a sound argument in deduction, then you make sure it is valid and all the premises are true. I've seen all this. Why must a scientific statement be testable and therefore falsifiable? Construct an example, each of a confirmable statement. We know that. Then is the statement, all those who are impregnated prematurely experience birth complications. This is a statement. Is it a hypothetical statement or a verifiable one? Explain your answer. Look at all those who are impregnated prematurely experience birth complications. One will say one answer one day do not. Many are me ho. Danny and me be in other words, at a younger age. Many are me ho. It me. Family have. One are winning some one answer and one brush. Those who are impregnated. I'm speaking the everyday tense. It's a generalization. A hypothetical one. Look at my recording. I showed you some from your test. all those who contract the human equivalent of mad cow disease. If you remember in your test, if you are not engaging content, you will think of this as a specific. The dose, speaking the everyday terms, all those who are impregnated prematurely, all of them, all of you, those who are impregnated prematurely. So it is in the everyday, all those who contract COVID-19 are quarantined. I speak this, I'm speaking the everyday terms, the universal generalization too. It's not a particular. Hey, which of the following is easier to confirm and why? It will be the universal generalization of the particular, not the statistical one. Okay. Explain what we mean when we say that the statement social deviants are the result of broken homes is only a prediction. This is a universal or a law-like statement or a universal statement capturing, remember, hypothesis. So it is stating what we expect to see. It is not establishing a certainty. The same thing we've said over and over again. All metals expand when heated. Read your unit 5, before you start with the laws, the one that talks about natural laws, that natural or scientific laws are considered, in the empirical sense of it, are considered to be predictions. You are expressing an expectation you have of that matter, but it could fail. So just like we would have done with those scientific laws, natural laws, this one is an expectation. You expect that if someone is a social deviant, then he came from a broken home, but some didn't. Whatever you call broken home, my sociology and social awareness, this is for you. Some come from a very, whatever. If the other home is broken, then a straight home. But there is no problem. So present. Daddy is a spiritual man, mommy is a spiritual mother. The boy reads his Bible morning, afternoon, evening. I tell you, inside the Bible, where he's sitting down, categorizing himself, but inside there is a pornography. Okay. So there can be people that are expected to be social deviants because maybe, that is separated or they didn't have any, whatever broken home is defined to be. But they would rather turn out not to be deviations of society, deviants, no. They would rather conform, grow up. So these are based on what we found so far. We are predicting. It is not a certainty. So chill, brother or sister. If for some reason you come from a broken, you can still make it better. All metals expand when heated. Prediction. Whenever prices of goods and services are increased, quantity demanded falls. It's a prediction. Whenever you throw a ball up, it will come down. It's a prediction. You can throw a ball up and some monkey fly and pick it up. An airplane will lift itself up, it won't come. It's gone. Gravity didn't hold it. We are speaking about laws that are based on particular observation instances by which we came to that hypothesis. That law we have drawn is a hypothetical statement, hypothesis. It's a subject to further study and further verification, or if you like, better still confirmation. Okay. Explain the logic behind the empirical scientist's value for falsification. I'll explain that. Write down an example of an empirical law and explain why it is considered a prediction. We just did one together. Why is counterfactual good news for the empirical scientist? I explained that when you find the opposite, then you know something for certain, which is what? A negation of what that hypothesis you're working. If I find something that is contrary to what I knew all this while, that is rather an inspiration for me. It has cancelled the claim that all pregnancies will last 9 months, all sickle cell anemic patients will die at 18. If I found a 65-year-old sickle cell mother of 6, still thriving, it is good news for me. It has cancelled what I thought I knew. So a counterfactual is good news. Either way, proper, genuine scientific work, not dogmatic scientists who don't want to hear anything that negates their hard-earned reputation and theory. They're not doing science if you did that. Why should empirical science not be dealt with like a dogma? Explain that. Why is a statement that is necessarily or absolutely true considered non-scientific? It doesn't inform you. You need information. Empirical science does not admit of pseudoscientific statements. Explain why this is so. I've explained that. Briefly assess the statement either that politician is broke or he's not. That's a pseudoscientific statement. he's broke or he's not broke. That is necessarily true, even if no politician exists. You see, it's the logic, the language that makes that. So it is no longer speaking to content, but form. Focus on empirical content. So that's what I'm saying. That statement lacks empirical content. It has no predictive power, and it is not testable. Explain the connection in predictive power or empirical content and the reference class of a scientific statement. Use an example to make your case. Very good. The same thing. So if a statement has more empirical content, then it's to have a higher predictive power and therefore it will be more scientific. But the starting point must be what the reference class. So you see a statement like, so I want to find a statement like all women like pineapple has more predictive power and empirical content than a statement like that woman likes pineapple. And the reason is the first statement, all women like pineapple, has more reference. Its reference class is bigger. It's talking about all women compared to the one that said that. See that? Okay, let's go on. Create two confirmable statements whose empirical content and predictive power vary. Or to create one that is statistical and one that is law-like, and label them as such. So, okay. Why is an enumerative induction considered to be an inductive argument? You know why? Its premises do not give you enough grounds to establish with certainty the conclusion, even if you assumed all the premises to be true. The higher the confirmation of a hypothetical statement, the less valuable it is to the empirical scientist. Explain why this is so. The higher the confirmation, that is, the more true a hypothetical statement is, the less valuable it is to the scientist. Of course, we don't want statements that are so true, they are closer to true. No. The scientist wants statements that are easier to be false. It's still about what the reference class and the reason for further study and the degree of what confidence that we can have. We did a good job on that. If we don't have too many hours done, let's see. I hope we haven't clocked an hour yet. If we haven't, then we can use let's use 5 minutes or 10 or so. Do some few multiple choice questions for those who may find that useful. And then I think that I really have given you what some of you have asked for to help your revision. Okay. Note that units 9 and 10 were not done in the continuous assessment, so you won't have content on that in this. What I'm doing with you, you won't have content. It can be this. We're going through this one. You won't have units 9 and 10 in that. Where are my multiple choice questions? So in your revision on your own, you should be looking out for practical, applicable questions in it. 9 and 10. Informal fallacies and then causal reasoning. Okay, I think I got it. So let's see some multiple choice questions. This my document doesn't permit us to see all the we won't have the answers. I don't know if Sakai is. Sakai was off for a while. If Sakai is back, we could look at one or two of them. But certain instances where you were asked to, for example, choose which of the following best describes an option up there, and then the option is declarative, imperative, is declarative, factual. You know, just a minute. Let's find them. So we don't speak in abstraction. We speak to specific. Okay? Yeah, so Sakai is back. Let's look at some quickly. We will do a few because we can't do it. The pool is very big. It's very big per unit. So we can't do it. We can do a few of them. If I can share my. Let's see. What can you see now? Let's be sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. So we go to. Okay. So you should see my screen now, and I'm taking you through one of the pools. This one says, hold it. We'll be able to see the options. I'll try it. If it works, then that'll be fine. A farmer makes the following. Yeah. Okay. This can be very tedious, friends. So we'll do a few of them. A farmer makes the following observation. Whenever the clouds gather at the eastern side of the hill, it rains. The farmer is reasoning. Look at the possible answers. Non-scientifically, inductively, deductively, logically. This is how we do it. So you see, the correct answer is inductively. The system picks that. And that is what, if you choose, the system will mark for you. If you choose any other thing, the system will mark you wrong, my dear friends. Okay, I don't know how we can go through so many if this is how it will be projected. But I really wanted you to see those who feel, those who don't, please, I don't think that I got that. And then I'm like, let me see. Question 2 says, which of the following statements correctly describes a scientific statement? I wish we could go to choose the option that has more empirical content than the statement. Those COVID-19 patients are asymptomatic. If this one says those COVID-19, then it should be the option that is not specific. That is the one that will have more empirical content. And let me just click that. I suspect that there might be 2 or more of them. Okay, so let's see. This one says most COVID-19 patients are asymptomatic. Okay, so then it is the option to take. I think that the multiple choice ones may create a problem for us. The system will drag it and will have a very long. Let's see. What determines the verifiability or confirmability of a scientific claim? The reference class. You see, the reference class. We go through the options and pick. You have to be very circumspect when you are reading possible answers. We would have loved to do all objectives, 50 questions. As soon as you finish, we release the result. If it's 2 days that the university can give us, giving our numbers for you to do your batches, after the second day, when the last person ends and they close, we just release the result. Everyone sees their result. Who suffers? Then we would rather have our sleep. But we want to make sure that we have balanced it in a way that when students are not reading well for that or they didn't get it, they don't score a 0. So we put in some short answers, give ourselves stress. So we can take time and read through, give people the opportunity to write something so we can move through and tease out something. Okay. So you should be patient with the team working for you, working very well for you. And we communicate clearly. If students will just get themselves connected to the course site, read announcements that are meant for you. Don't wait for the thing to hit your email or to come to a WhatsApp platform. No. Which WhatsApp platform? Who should go and pick it from where and copy where for you? My dear friend, you see, go to the course site yourself. You have access to it. The course site just means the course of Sakai, where the course has been mounted, especially this one, which is fully taught online. Okay. We will have the introductory sessions and then the ending sessions in person to integrate as a bit and communicate. But the substantive content is online taught, especially for G and main campus. So go there, you read the announcement. If you have a query, there's a notice there. And I can say that because I post most of those notices there. I tell you, if you had a difficulty, write an email here. You are doing the test and you experience a Sakai challenge. Sometimes it is not Sakai. So because of that, if I open an assessment, I have my phone by me, I have my gadgets by me, promptly. You can ask your colleagues promptly. So if you have a challenge, just send an email. The reason why we want email is because it helps for follow-ups. If for any reason you have to follow up, if it's a WhatsApp, I delete them because I have thousands and thousands of students, and I can understand my other people will send the thing and will be bothering the other. We have an arrangement this semester because lectures have some responsibilities beyond themselves. So some of the feedbacking, if you add it to it, you won't get it promptly. So send it here. People say no. They will send it to your email. You will send the lecture will forward to me. By the time you go to the lecture will do some other things you do before he sees and brings you. Maybe if it is a deadline, it's passing on. Why won't you obey simple instruction? Simple. do that. So if it's a Sakai, sometimes the student prompts, you go into the system, you see there. It's a network issue, not your network. I won't be able to give an account. Like your pen is not writing at the exam center. Oh yeah. How can that be the lecturer's issue if your pen stopped writing at the exam? So your network or your gadget, my phone fell down, or those things, I even respect you so much to give you feedback and say, please move forward at what is ahead. Because you sent an email, you have to receive feedback. But that cannot be the lecture or the examiner's issue. See that? But if Sakai, which is a working tool, the system that the university has provided, gives us a challenge, we are obliged to look at it. And all those who had this challenge and project, they got it. We check sometimes after the first one, the rest doesn't pick. It shows. Then you delete it and allow the student. Immediately I send them messages and they get feedback from you. Okay, so let's work that way. These ones are, it looks like we may not be able to go through them. Which of the following is part of an argument? Part of an argument. I'm sure you will see antecedent and consequent. People will go and choose. Let me see. Which of the following is a part of an argument? Which of the following? So there's connotation there, there's evidence, there's antecedent, I said it's antecedent, and there's none of the given option. Evidence is a part. Remember, evidence is also premise. So if people will be looking for premises and conclusions, they don't see that, they think the answer is not there. The answer is there. You are doing induction. Your premises are called the evidence, the reasons you offer to support your conclusion, hypothesis. So that is a part of an argument. It's no connotation, and it is not antecedent. Antecedent is a part of a conditional statement, not an argument. Stuff like that. And this is where some people will be very confident that they got 20 over 20. Someone has given them. There's so many of them. The pool is very big. Even this one is 200. See, this unit is 212 questions. Okay, my dear friends, and you have more. Vagueness is a linguistic defect. Sharon is a tigress. It's an example. If I say Sharon is a tigress, the person Sharon is a tigress. That should tell you how the person is speaking. Money is blood. I mean, money is a 4 squared sheet of paper or coin. How can it be blood? The person is speaking figuratively. So the options there is asking you to do something. Let me end at least the short answers, which are subjective. We have thrown some light on it, and I hope that it's able to guide you as you prepare for final exam. Then you will do well. Wish you well all the time. Send me your queries if you have any. Hope that you do very well so that we don't have any recital, and not just pass everyone, but you all pass very well as you work hard towards it. Bring your queries if you have any. My DE students, you will do fine. Main campus students, you will do fine. My city campus folks that were expecting to do the course this semester, your campus said no. All of you registered to take critical thinking for city campus should do it second semester. It is not a coordinated decision, it's a campus decision, and it has to be respected because I think there is an internal arrangement that supports that. So you get to do it next semester, and then you graduate if you needed it for your graduation. All the best. Be patient and always look out for notices, official communication. Not that I saw that my friend said their grade has come, so where is mine? Remember, you're dealing with large numbers. When you do that, you slow everybody down. Communication comes to College of Health Science platform. We are done with the grading of your interim assessment. The reason why we update you like that is so that you can bring your queries if you have any. If you have any concerns to come. So once we move up, we move on to the next platform, the next group, then we work that way. So you know how you have fared in your multiple choice. At least it gives you a fair idea of your over 20, what you have. Once we mop up, grade the human one, all that information is there. So if people are just following simple notices, and then if for some reason something is not clear, they are coming to the appropriate place, you should have had a very enjoyable semester, and you look out for the best grade ever in your university life. I wish you well, all the best on behalf of my colleagues and the other teaching members in the team. entire Department of Philosophy and Classics. We wish you well. Have a wonderful stay in the university. All the best. Take care.